Hello, dear ones. It's so good to be together. I wish that we were actually together, face to face, in the same room, but we know what we're up against now. In the resurgence of the uprising following the ruling yesterday in the killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, we are even more aware of the tension between a longing to make a difference, a sense of helplessness, and occasionally even of despair. I want you to know that Unity Church is doing all that it can to provide tools and opportunities to make a difference in useful and appropriate ways as we try to sustain a consciousness of systemic racism and the urgency of change without falling into patterns that would undermine those goals. Every Tuesday night now, for the next 5 weeks, we've had 2 so far, 150 people are gathering on Zoom to work with our consultants from Team Dynamics to look into our own behavior and to begin to set some personal objectives and get clearer about a number of ways in which Unity is organizing to have a greater impact in the world. This last Tuesday night, actually the first Tuesday night, we took a very interesting look at the disciplines of mind that are required to uncouple our minds, our consciousness, in ways that we see things more clearly and keep our biases from taking hold. We were presented with a little film clip. In the film clip, a man walks into a room, a woman follows him into the room, the man sits down on a stool, the woman kneels next to him, the man pretends to be eating something, passes the bowl to the woman kneeling on the floor, and then she eats and puts the bowl down. She then bows 3 times with his hand not touching her but behind her head. We were asked to describe what happened. I just described what happened. But when I was asked to describe what happened in a small group, I said, a man led a woman into the room and ate before she did, and then forced her to bow 3 times. Our trainer then said, you have not only described, but you have interpreted, and it's to some degree evaluated what you saw. Here's an alternative story, informed by a different culture. A man and a woman walked into the room. The man sat down because he is not worthy to kneel, because the ground would cry out if a man came into that close contact with the earth. Only women are allowed to be in that kind of proximity to the earth. Then the man tasted her food to make sure that it was adequate and that it was not poison. And then, in order to participate in her ritual, he held his hand closely behind her head as she prayed, as she went through the practice of reinforcing her commitment and her connection to the earth itself. It's a very different story. So what we're learning is to, as I say, uncouple description, interpretation, and evaluation. First, see what's really happening, then think about what it might mean, and then think about how you think about it makes you feel. But separate the three. This is a discipline that begins to unravel the biases that shape our minds and that make systemic racism such an effective mechanism in human culture, particularly here in the United States, as we try to confront centuries of white supremacy and change ourselves and change our lives, that we might, as Baldwin said, end the racial nightmare and realize our country. Take hold, friends. The work is real, the work is important, the work is holy.